All right, we begin with an alert. President Trump hitting the ground running in Turkey, already making headlines this morning as he attends the NATO summit. He's doing it right now.
The commander-in-chief revealing that he thinks the ceasefire with Iran is over.
Mark Meredith is live in Turkey with the very latest. Good morning, Mark.
Lawrence, Kaylee, and Brian, good morning, friends. Today, President Trump is putting Iran on notice. Attacks on tankers moving through the Strait of Hormuz will not be tolerated. Overnight, the U.S. launching 80 attacks on Iranian targets. This all comes as the president is here on the ground in Turkey, meeting with world leaders who are eager to see the NATO alliance united. Video released overnight by Central Command shows the U.S. is responding, and while these latest strikes appear over for now, CENTCOM says it is standing by if more action is needed. Iran responded overnight, launching their own counterstrikes at targets in Kuwait and Bahrain. We just got a statement from the Qataris who said that they are not happy with Iran launching these attacks on their Mideast allies. We also heard from the president who says he believes the ceasefire recently reached with Iran is simply no longer in place.
Is the ceasefire over? Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll speak to our negotiators.
One person who is defending the president's decision to launch these strikes is NATO Secretary General, saying Iran is causing chaos throughout the Middle East. Trump is spending much of his short time here in Turkey urging NATO members to spend more of their money investing in the alliance defense. Today, he had some very tough words for Spain, which got permission not to contribute as much as other countries, 5% of GDP, when it comes to NATO's defenses. For the president, though, that's an outrageous move.
To trade with them. I don't want to do any more trade with them. All right? Yes, take it immediately. You don't even talk to them. They're hopeless. Bad people, because, you know, they have everybody else going and paying and working. In particular, Spain. There are a couple of others, but in particular, Spain. They're open about it. They're hostile about it. They make so much money with us, and we're going to see that they make a lot less.
The president certainly with those tough words for Spain. We heard from the Spanish prime minister who said he believes that relations between the U.S. and Spain are still on good footing and that he believes the relationship simply remains intact. We'll see if the president elaborates any more. They've already had their family photo. But, guys, there are two big meetings still on the agenda. One, President Trump sits down with the Syrian leader, as well as the meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that'll happen later today. And then that all-ever important news conference still on the books several hours from now. Kaylee, Brian, and Lawrence, back to you.
Yeah, I thought they said 4 o'clock Eastern time, so we'll see, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. 9:15 a.m. is the news conference, and he will definitely elaborate then. And Brian, I am fascinated to hear more from him because there was some nuance there, as we discussed. The president said he'll let his negotiators keep negotiating, the nice people, he said. But I think something that might seal the deal of the end of the ceasefire is the fact of the revocation of the license to sell oil to Iran. That is what they want most. So you've removed the chief incentive for Iran to cooperate by not allowing them to sell oil. So they have no incentive to keep abiding by an MOU that they were not even abiding by to begin with. So I think that spells the end. And just to note that Iran's been rebuilding during the ceasefire. Apparently, they now have access to more than half of the missiles and launchers they had lost before the conflict. So they've been quickly rebuilding. So
they buried them. They brought them out. They're also targeted. And we've been watching everything, too. My hope is, number one, we found a way to fortify our Gulf allies. And number two, my hope is that we went to school on what worked and what didn't work if we go back full scale to have Admiral Cooper present that plan and let's go at it if, in fact, that is indeed what they're going to do. My sense is Iran, they say that they're evil, but they're not crazy. And if they actually want to go back to receiving this type of beatdown, instead of trading on the normalizing trade, that would be a choice that many people think they wouldn't take. So I'm very curious to see what Iran's going to say after the president made his remarks about an hour ago about what he's going to do next, because those launchers were buried, so that means they couldn't be used. So they're going to bring them out and use them. We hit 80 separate targets already, and many of them are communications with each other. My sense is if they want to hit back on Iran, at the same time keep oil prices down, which are up 6%, The Strait of Hormuz has got to be within our control, and that's got to be the military operation that we go for.
So just to build on your point, Brian, because you're exactly right, the Strait is going to be the tool that they use again. It's going to be oil prices that they're going to use again. I think from a military standpoint, we're still on the 5-yard line. So the question is, just moving the conversation forward, does the political leadership, and I'm not talking about the president because he's made the case on why Iran is a threat, but when you talk about Congress, when you talk about Senate, when you talk about even the media now, the president has tried peace with Iran. He's tried to get the oil prices down. The Iranians have rejected his offer. So nationally, is he going to get some support on this now? Because you can't have the president making the case by himself. What we saw during the last go-around, during the military actions, is that the president was talking about the threat. He got no backup from the Senate. He got no backup from the House. And then the media was saying that our military was losing the war every single day. Meanwhile, their Navy is in the sea. They have many of the launching pads are done. They depleted a lot of their missiles as well. So I just hope as we restart this kinetic activity that there's a little bit change in support in the messaging.
Absolutely. There was this interesting moment, and I want our viewers to watch this. And just think, you have the head of NATO, Rutte, and his interest is shoring up the NATO alliance. And you have President Trump, who's clear-eyed, who is America first, and who realizes that the members of NATO weren't quite there during this Iran conflict. And watch him push back on Rutte, who he has a good relationship with.
When it comes to Iran, I know you're disappointed. We discussed it a couple of weeks ago. I would say these are isolated cases. 5,000 planes taking off from European airports in support of Epic Fury. It was Europe as one big platform of power projection for the United States, helping with Epic Fury, including countries you mentioned, Germany from day one, France, and many others. We discussed the Bucharest airport, which was closed for a couple of days for commercial traffic because you needed it for Epic Fury, and they were totally
United
fine.
Kingdom wouldn't let us use the island for 2 weeks, so we had to fly back.
No, so I'm saying you're right. There are isolated
and
cases.
Italy was very bad, having to do with their bases, as you know, and a couple of others. So
But still, generally, 5,000 is huge. And you mentioned Spain. Even you got Spain to pay 2%. They made a huge step in last year. So there's still issues we have to solve. But hey, also even on Spain.
And we're cutting off aid with Spain. It's $36 billion they're putting into the military in terms of what we trade with them. Essentially, it's not a lot. But one thing that we do, they buy a lot of our missiles, a lot of our rockets for their minimal expenses. We buy a lot of their renewable energy. I don't think this president's huge on renewables and green energy. So any trade that's going to happen is going to dissipate. And it's going to be up to this prime minister, whose economic policies are socialists and was struggling in the polls, to rationalize this type of body blow.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.